Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to talk about the pregame of the Game 7 between the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Detroit will be at home for Game 7. They forced it on Game 6. Let's recap on the whole game in itself. Uh, let's give a great compliment to the whole team in itself, not just Kay Cunningham, but Durant and also Duncan Robinson and Dennis Jenkins for doing their part. Let's go over the stats. Let's talk about what was good, what was bad, and what Detroit may have to do. I'll talk about the game plan that Detroit did for Game 6 as well. But there's a couple points I want to make out for Game 6. One of the points I want to make out is that Detroit's free throw attempts and made are quite questionable. And what I mean by that is quite questionable is because Detroit only went to the line for 19 times, only made 13 free throws, which is not enough for Detroit. Detroit needs to get to the hole, needs to get foul shots. I know that there was a couple shots that Kate Cunningham was fouled going to the hole, no cause. That is an unfortunate thing that happens a lot against Detroit. And I don't know why Detroit is for or against the fouls. I don't know why the referees are not making the calls, which clearly Kate Cunningham is getting fouled going to the hole. Everyone knows that James Harden is clearly just fakes every floppy moment of his life, and he's lived on that. And Detroit needs to stay away from that moment. If you have to with James Harden, let him make all the 3-pointers, but always pressure him. If you can pressure him to play all 90 feet of the court, you can actually make him wear himself out. Make him move around the court on a defense end. And I'll get to that moment in a second. But there's another thing that I want to talk about is that Cleveland got to the free throw line 30 times and made 22. But the fact that they made it 30 times to the free throw line, it's very not good for Detroit. That's something that Detroit needs to be able to contain themselves from making cheap fouls. Sir Thompson is a good example of him making bad fouls and bad moments in the game. That's something that is clearly a questionable thing for Detroit. I think Detroit distributed the ball to assists with 25, where Cleveland only have 15. They're passing the ball better. And I'll tell you one thing that we should talk about is that I want to talk about the reason why I think this worked out for Detroit is because they started Dennis Jenkins as a starter in Game 6. And what that does for Detroit is gives the Detroit Pistons an opportunity to have someone ball handle the ball or take the ball up to the court other than Cade Cunningham. And this is why this is going to work out for Detroit in the long run. In the short run, people are going to question this between Duncan Robinson and Dennis Jenkins being a trade out, right? But you want someone else to take the ball up to half court because that way you allow Cade Cunningham to work off picks from Jalen Duran or Sir Thompson or even Tobias Harris. Remember, the point of having Jalen Duran on the court isn't always to be an offense efficiency, but to create shots, to create moments where he will use those picks during the post spot down by the paint where he'll free Tobias Harris or Cade Cunningham, or even if Duncan Robinson comes in, he'll free him space for him to make a 3-point shot. So Dennis Jenkins, that is a very much improved moment for Detroit. I'll tell you that if you look at the box scores, and I'll go to the box scores with us as right now for Detroit and along with Cleveland Cavaliers. I'll move this to the side so you guys can see it a lot better. Tobias Harris only had 6 points, 25 minutes, 2 for 7 field goals. And this is why it's important for Tobias Harris not to be always scoring 20 points because he's not that guy, okay? He is the guy that can create his own shots at times during the post in certain situations through the whole playoff series, but He's 32, 33 years old, and you do not need a man to be doing all that much lifting. It would made a better sense to have someone like Dennis Jenkins, 15 points, Asir Thompson, 10, Kay Cunningham with 21 points, and then Jalen Duran. Jalen Duran had 15 points, 7 for 10 field goals, 1 for 4 free throws. Could have been a little better. His first double-double of the playoff series, I think, of any of the whole series between Orlando and Cleveland. And I think one thing that you got to say about what JV Bickerstaff did about this guy is the fact that he kind of made the offense better by putting Dennis Jenkins on the court, because that way it's almost like as if Kay Cunningham and Arthur Thompson was creating more space for Jalen Duran, because the defense then had to focus on where Kay Cunningham was going to go off picks, or where Tobias Harris is going to go on picks. And with Dennis Jenkins moving the ball around the court, it creates more accessibility for Jalen Duran. And one thing that happens is that when Jalen Duran uh, receives the ball by Kay Cunningham, the defense goes right to Kay Cunningham, and then he dishes it off right to Jalen Duran in the post game. That in itself will make things a lot easier for Jalen Duran. One of the one of the things I saw about Jalen Duran also did pretty well was that he was in isolation and he got lowered to the ground when he was dribbling the ball. So it was difficult for the defense, like Jalen, um, for Jared Allen to defend him. And one of the things that you have to appreciate about Jalen Duran, that he was more aggressive, going for the rebounds, and actually keeping the ball alive. Now, if he didn't get the ball, he would just try to get the ball outside back to Kay Cunningham or Jenkins, or even Duncan Robinson, or whoever was on the court. So that in itself is more active. He becomes more active on the boards, he'll be a better teammate for the rest of the team. Remember, it's not important for Jalen Duran to score 30 points. It'd be nice if he scored 20, but if he can get around about 15 points, 10 rebounds, maybe a couple of assists, that in itself will make Detroit as a whole as a better team. But again, the point of having this guy on board to start the game is to keep up the pace of the game, make it go faster. If you have Dennis Jenkins keeping the ball and moving the ball faster, that speeds up Cleveland's game. Cleveland is more methodical because of James Harden is slower. He's an old person. He's very just 36 years old. And nothing to say against James Harden. He can create his own space. He can create foul shots for himself. But in reality, if James Harden or Mitchell have to run after this guy, in the long run, in the fourth quarter, those guys are going to get worn out. Those guys will get worn out. They'll be on the bench, and then the bench players for Cleveland, like Dennis Schroeder, who's a decent player, but you know what? He's not going to be that guy to score points for you on a consistent basis. He might score 10 points here, 5 points there, 15 points there, but he's never going to be that guy that's going to score like 15 every game. He just doesn't have it. And that's something that we learned in Detroit that he doesn't really have, and that's why it was okay for us to let him go for free agency. But that's just the way it works. And you got to understand, if you take Donovan Mitchell might have been sick a couple games ago, and he might be under the weather as well. Donovan Mitchell only had 18 points, 6 for 20 for field goals, 2 for 6 for three-pointers. So that in itself tells you that Detroit's doing something right. And he played 37 minutes, along with James Harden for 37 minutes, 23 points, 6 for 13 field goals. It helps to have Dennis Jenkins on the basketball court in the beginning of the game to speed up the game, to make those guys play defense. When Duncan Robinson's on the court, the game is more slower, more standing around, waiting for Kay Cunningham to pass the ball, and always the ball comes back to Kay Cunningham on the top of the key, where it's only about 5 seconds to shoot it. That's not going to work for Detroit. That's never going to work for Detroit. You do not. The less Uh, the less time that you give Cade Cunningham without the ball is a better game because he himself will create his own shots off picks. Again, it's important to understand why JB Bickerstaff went when went with Dennis Jenkins as a starter. It speeds up the game. It's a good thing for Detroit. It doesn't become such a slow, methodical moment where one possession, no rebound, Cleveland gets the ball. You, this kid is accessible to get rebounds for himself, and he seems to understand where the ball is going to bounce off the rim when it happens. So this is something that another thing that's very clear when you watch Detroit Pistons. And it's very clear for the Detroit Pistons staff that they saw that as well. They saw that he was able to grab rebounds, understand when the ball is going to go, and transition towards the offense for a fast break. But that in itself is something that it's a good thing for Detroit to have. Uh, Duncan Robinson. I think I think Duncan Robinson is a better player on the second team at this point of of this series, is because he's better matchup against second team guys from Cleveland, and he's a little bit more athletic than most of the guys on the second team against Cleveland. He probably isn't as athletic enough to be on the first team against Cleveland or against whoever their opponent will be in the future. But in itself, it's a kind of a better read. Now, Duncan Robinson had 20 minutes, 14 points, 4 for 7 field goals, 4 for 7 for 3 pointers, 2 for 3 for three throws. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see out of the guy with 14 points, only 20 minutes, and he's making shots. He's distributing the ball. He's grabbing. He only had 2 rebounds. It'd be nice if he grabbed more rebounds. That's one thing I think Duncan Robinson needs. Kind of be more of that guy, depending on who's defending. If he's defending a shooting guard, I get it. He's not going to be in the post game. But if he's playing against another post guy, I feel like he should get at least 5 rebounds, maybe 6 rebounds a game for that himself. Uh, Paul Reed. Paul Reed, I didn't have his picture up here, folks. I'm going to talk about Paul Reed. And I think what I want to talk about Paul Reed is I don't have a picture of him. But Paul Reed, 16 minutes, 17 points, 7 for 9 for field goals, 1 for 1 for 3 pointers. Guy hit a 3 pointer at the end of the game, for God's sake. 2 for 3 for free throws, 6 rebounds. He did give up the ball 3 times, but Paul Reed is your missing link. You're going to be a missing link because he understands where to go without the ball. He understands where the ball is going to be, how the ball is going to bounce off the rim, who has the ball, and what kind of he puts himself in the right position. And he saved the basketball with Duncan Robinson and saved it himself. And then the ball went back into Jalen Duran. No, I'm sorry, it went back to Paul Reed, and Paul Reed made a field goal along with a foul to make a free throw. So Paul Reed is your energy based guy. He gets it. I think he doesn't get a lot respected. I don't think he gets respected that much because that he's so half-chalant about his personality. And I don't know why he's not playing more, but he should be playing at least 17 minutes. His height is an advantage for Detroit. His athleticism is an advantage for Detroit. His basketball knowledge is about where to be on the court at certain moments of the game is relatively present. He might be an issue with physicality of the game. He might not be able to push guys to the post or move guys off their spot. But to have a guy that's able to run up and down the court like Paul Reed is an asset for Detroit. He just gets it. I don't know. Detroit needs to play him more. They need to play him more. I think if you look at Isaiah Stewart, people are like wondering why he only has 4 minutes. And I think the reason why he's only got 4 minutes is because of his height. And Isaiah Stewart is better off when he's playing more defensively. I think he'd be better off with like 3 minutes left in the quarters each quarter it defensively shutting down players. I think that's how they should treat Isaiah Stewart, along with Ronald Holland. He's another guy with less than 2 minutes left in the quarter. Doesn't matter if it's the first half, second half, or even the first or third quarter. Those guys should be put in there to shut down the offense, and then that way Detroit can maintain their lead going into the second half or going into the fourth quarter. So those type of deals that you have to kind of understand how to pursue the game in itself. I will talk about um, uh, Thompson. I want to talk about Thompson. If I can get to, I don't know what I did with him. Here he is. Here he is. There you go, Thompson. Sir Thompson. I think we got to talk about this guy a little bit. Sir Thompson. People say, well, he had good stats. He had 24 minutes, 10 points, 4 for 6 for field goals, 2 for 3 for free throws, 9 rebounds. But you know what they also tells you? He had 6 personal fouls. Now, this is going to be an issue for Detroit. An issue for Detroit is this guy. I think I think Sir Thompson needs to have a cool head a little bit. I think he needs to read the game, understand the game, and how it's processed. Not every call is going to be for you. Not every call is going to be against you. But you're hurting the team when you make bad fouls. I get it. There should be sometimes if Cade Cunningham gets fouled and there's no call, you should not go after the ball so aggressively to create a foul situation, which is a personal foul on you and a team foul on Detroit. That is not good. Or if you go to the basket and you don't get a foul call, if you're trying to retain the ball and commit a foul, that doesn't work for Detroit either because it's not within the moment. You cannot win the game or lose the game in the first quarter, second quarter, or third quarter. You can lose the game by making bad fouls, by making bad shots, by making bad decisions, and they accumulate all together. And that's kind of what's happening with Detroit with Sir Thompson. He allows Cleveland to get back in the game by making bad fouls and creating team fouls, which creates free throws for Cleveland with 4 minutes left in the game or 4 minutes left in the quarter. That in itself is not good for Detroit. That's something that he needs to focus on, that he can't be so emotional about every petty call that happens. And that's something I think JB Bickerstaff will have to control his anger along with Sir Thompson. There are going to be plenty of plays in the game that you can make up the difference, and the fouls will equal itself out. It always does, and it always will. I don't know how it does. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know what it's going on. But you have to understand that you cannot make bad fouls at bad situations. That's basically what I'm going to have to talk about in the game in itself. Detroit came out strong against Cleveland in game 6. Game 7 would be going on, and I'll come back to you guys and gals after that game. It probably won't be until Tuesday that I'll have that game, just because the Sunday game is so late, and then by the time it's time to wrap up, it's time to go to bed. So, cheers. If you like this podcast, follow. This is the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Follow me on YouTube, Patreon, wherever you download your podcast. I'm out of here. Cheers. Love you guys.